If you ignore this, you'll regret it later, as this will determine your success or failure as influenced by narcissistic abuse aftermath. Narcissistic abuse leaves behind silent wounds that can show up in your everyday life, especially when you're trying to grow or succeed. Today, we'll talk about the subtle, sneaky ways your past might still be holding you back, and how to start breaking free from it, one step at a time. Here are the 8 ways narcissistic abuse victims often sabotage their own success. Are you ready for number 1? Doubting their abilities. When you've been constantly criticized or torn down by a narcissist, you start to believe their words as truth. You doubt your abilities, even when you're fully capable, because somewhere along the way, you were made to feel small. As therapist Dr. Ramani Durvasula says, narcissistic abuse erodes your self-trust. And that's exactly why you hesitate to take chances, go after goals, or even celebrate your own wins. You tell yourself you're not smart enough, skilled enough, or worthy enough, and that inner voice becomes louder than any outside encouragement. But that doubt is not your true self. It's a reflection of the lies you were fed to keep you under control. The truth is, you are enough. You just need to unlearn what they taught you and start believing in your own strength again. Let's talk about number 2, procrastinating due to perfectionism. Why bother starting if it's not going to be perfect, right? That thought has probably crossed your mind more than once. And it's not laziness, it's survival mode. After being constantly criticized by a narcissist, you may have developed a belief that anything less than perfect isn't good enough. Dr. Margaret Rutherford, author of Perfectly Hidden Depression, explains that perfectionism often hides deep emotional pain and fear of judgment. You put things off, not because you don't care, but because the pressure to get everything just right is so overwhelming that it paralyzes you. You're afraid to mess up because in the past, even small mistakes were used against you. So you procrastinate, waiting for the perfect time or perfect version that never comes. But success doesn't come from perfection. It comes from showing up, trying, and allowing yourself to grow without fear of being torn down. Let's move on to number 3, avoiding risk or challenges. Fear of failure or criticism, often rooted in past narcissistic abuse, makes you avoid taking risks or stepping outside your comfort zone, even when it could lead to growth. You might avoid going after new jobs, starting projects, or speaking up because somewhere deep down, you believe failing means you're a disappointment. Clinical psychologist Dr. Susan Forward, in her book Emotional Blackmail, explains how fear becomes a tool of control. Victims are often trained to expect punishment or rejection for stepping out of line. So, instead of chasing growth, you play it safe because safety feels less painful than the shame that's been burned into you. But here's the truth. Success requires risk, and failure isn't a sign of weakness. It's part of how you learn and rise. You've already survived so much. Imagine what you could do if fear didn't get the final say. Now, let's continue to number 4, feeling guilty for wanting more. Who do you think you are for wanting more? If that voice sounds familiar, it's probably because the narcissist planted that seed long ago. You were likely made to feel guilty for dreaming big, speaking up, or wanting a life that felt good to you. So now, even when you start to move toward success, a wave of guilt pulls you back. In her book, Radical Acceptance, psychologist Tara Brach writes, "When we believe something is wrong with us, we live in a constant state of self-judgment, always trying to prove our worth. That guilt you feel isn't because your dreams are wrong, but because you were taught that your needs don't matter. But they do matter. You're not selfish for wanting more. You're human. And your desire to grow, heal, and succeed is a sign of your strength, not your shame." You shouldn't miss number 5, isolating themselves. If you've been through narcissistic abuse, isolating yourself can feel safer than being vulnerable again. You might pull away from supportive friends, mentors, or even family, not because you don't love them, but because deep down, you're afraid they'll hurt or judge you like the narcissist did. Dr. Judith Herman, a trauma expert and author of Trauma and Recovery, explains that isolation is both a symptom and a defense for people who've experienced emotional abuse. You may carry shame, fear, or the belief that no one really understands what you've been through, so it feels easier to handle everything on your own. But the truth is, healing happens in safe connections. The very support you push away might be the thing that helps you see yourself clearly again and reminds you that you're never as alone as you feel. Are you still up for number 6? Ignoring self-care. When was the last time you truly took care of yourself, not out of guilt, but out of love? If you've lived through narcissistic abuse, chances are you've gotten used to putting everyone else first and ignoring your own needs. You may have been made to feel selfish or too much for wanting rest, joy, or peace. According to Dr. Tama Bryant, psychologist and author of Homecoming: Overcome Fear and Trauma to Reclaim Your Whole Authentic Self, self-neglect is one of the ways trauma teaches you to disconnect from your own body and feelings. So, you keep pushing, keep doing, but underneath it all, you're running on empty. And when your mind and body are exhausted, it's hard to chase success, let alone believe you deserve it. But self-care isn't selfish, it's survival. Let's keep it moving to number 7, comparing themselves to others constantly. Have you ever asked yourself this question? Why does everyone else seem to have it all together while you feel stuck? If you've been through narcissistic abuse, it's easy to fall into the trap of constantly comparing yourself to others. You may scroll through social media or look around at people in your life and feel like you're falling behind, like you're not smart enough, talented enough, or successful enough. But what you're really doing is looking at someone else's highlight reel while carrying your own invisible scars. In her book, The Gifts of Imperfection, researcher Brené Brown writes, "Comparison is the thief of happiness. Stay in your own lane." The narcissist likely planted the idea that you were never enough, and now those thoughts replay every time you see someone else doing well. But your journey is not theirs. You've survived what many never had to face, and just being here, healing, and still trying means you're already doing more than you realize. Finally, we're down to number 8, fearing independence. What if standing on your own means standing alone? That fear makes so much sense when you've lived under someone else's control. Narcissists often create a dynamic where you feel like you can't survive without them, emotionally, financially, or even mentally. Over time, you start to believe that being independent is risky or selfish because they have made you feel safer staying small and dependent. In her book, Women Who Run with the Wolves, Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes writes, "To be ourselves causes us to be exiled by many others, and yet to comply with what others want causes us to be exiled from ourselves." That's the exact trap you were put in. You fear that becoming independent might push people away or leave you without support. But in reality, it brings you back to you. Your freedom won't isolate you. It will empower you to build a life where you choose who stays, what you do, and who you become. The truth is, you're not your past. You're someone who's learning, healing, and growing. Narcissistic abuse may have taught you to stay small, doubt yourself, or fear success. But that doesn't mean you have to stay stuck. Every step you take to understand these patterns is a step toward freedom. You have more strength than you realize, and your future doesn't have to look like your past. You deserve success that feels safe, joyful, and real. And it's okay to start claiming it now.